Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Now, I just need to put this out there, as we always talk about our gin drinking at the beginning of this session.
Oh,
What I am drinking this evening is not nice.
no, it's not nice, is it?
And I'm blaming you.
Well, I'd forgotten we'd got you this, but can I blame it on the kids, even though they're not old enough?
They couldn't buy it.
The kids, I think the kids bought you this. What did they buy you? Come on, tell everyone.
It's chocolate flavoured gin from Hotel Chocolat. There are some things in this world that should not be made.
What gin have I got? Because mine's not as bad as yours.
Apothecary.
Yeah. You know, like after Gordon's and possibly adding in Bombay Sapphire and Tanqueray.
You're a heathen.
I am a heathen.
Heathen.
Unfortunately, I am like a grade A heathen.
I'm not even going to... Oh. It's not good. But desperate times, we are on a little bit of a drought in the Braithwaite
I'm just going to check
house.
the sound.
Okay.
Sound
Sound
check.
is working. Yeah, the gin globe is swiftly becoming just a globe. That's not good, is
It
it?
used to be a gin globe, now it's I have to tell the story. So we talked about this like everyone knows, but we would have mentioned this in the early days. So a while back we got a drinks cabinet, like 70s, 80s drinks globe, and we just decided to, off of eBay, and we decided only ever to put gin in it and call it a gin globe. But what made me smile once, my dad once went, "Alan, what makes your globe a gin globe then, specifically?" And I'm like, "Dad, it's full of gin." Yeah. He's like, "Oh, right, I thought there was something else."
Today we're on the dregs. All of the flavoured gins, none of the dries. We like the dries better.
Yeah, we're dry. So I don't have a delicate palate. Pretty much, I am a heathen. Anything, and I was about to say anything other than a burger, but that's not true. That makes me sound like one of those people who doesn't eat salad or vegetables. Sorry if that's one of you, but no, I like everything. But it's just a bit wasted on me, isn't it? It's like unless you blows your head off with chili, salt, pepper, it's really wasted on me. Anyway, well, no, we can talk food, can't we?
Good evening, everybody.
Oh, good evening. Well, we're not even saying good evening. Oh, good evening. Welcome to Ask an Expert number
59.
59, isn't it?
59.
Who would have thought? I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back. Who would have thought?
So if you are watching on YouTube this evening, watching live, welcome. It's lovely to see you this evening. Please do make sure that if you have any burning questions that you pop them down below and we'll try and answer as many as we can this evening. If you're listening on podcast, welcome. Oh, shush, Siri.
Siri's answering you. Well,
Siri's
don't put
answering.
your phone in between your legs and
if you're listening
wait for a call.
Shush.
Anyway, YouTubers, don't forget, thumbs up, like and subscribe.
I'll get into that.
Oh, okay, come on then.
If you're listening on podcast, welcome. If you're on SoundCloud or iTunes, that's fantastic. Make sure you do a thumbs up on I don't even know.
No, so on iTunes we ask people for reviews.
Oh, yes.
So please subscribe and review on iTunes.
Amazing.
SoundCloud, you can give it a heart. I think it's called giving it a heart, something like that.
And obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, on playback or at any other point, please do give us a little thumbs up, as always. That's appreciated. And if you'd like to subscribe to our channel, see all of our back catalogue of Ask an Expert.
You said it really politely. I'm going to basically, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much. And
That
little thumbs up here.
just sounds desperate, Braithwaite.
Yeah. Have you seen how many subscribers we've got?
Yeah, lots. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all of our subscribers. I can't believe we still haven't got. I don't know why we haven't got to 100. But we're not at 100 yet.
Anyhow, the sun has been shining this week. It's made us feel amazingly happy walking through the park with just t-shirts on this week, making us think.
Normally, I've had jumpers on.
Make us think like as British people do.
So all the kids
The
have
sun
got
is
colds.
out, therefore we must enjoy the sun. But actually, it's still like 10 degrees outside, and we're all actually.
No, it hit 14 and a half down south today.
Calm it down.
Someone said it was like 19 degrees in, I think it was Sheffield or something.
Sheffield,
No, I know, but that's relatively warm for this country, isn't it?
So this evening, Ask an Expert. We have a few things to talk about this week already. Again, I've already said once, make sure you do, if you have anything to say, do pop your questions in below. If we don't get to it this week, that's not a problem. We will try and get to it next week. We're here every week at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday. Alan, who are you typing to?
The world.
The world. Good-o. So this week we've had some amazing blogs on the website, so if you haven't checked them out, please do.
Yes.
We had some amazing advice from a venue about their top
I've
tips.
absolutely forgotten her name. Nicola Warren today.
Nicola Warren, who's from Applewood Weddings and Blossom Barn Weddings, and she gave us her top tips for planning an outdoor wedding, so that's golden advice if you are that person right
Well,
now.
isn't that arguably the most important bit of advice
It
from
is.
advice for members of the outside bride?
Yeah.
How to plan an outdoor wedding.
Especially as someone who's a venue owner who works in that industry day in, day out, they know what they're talking about. So do give her a little read because she's worth her weight in gold. We've also had a real wedding out this week.
I don't think we have. I think it's been style
Style shoots
shoots
this week.
and hints and tips.
We have a real wedding coming up tomorrow, a very cool one. It'll be one of your favourites and our daughter's going to love it because it's got a flamingo.
A unicorn?
Flamingo on the cake.
If it's not got a unicorn and a rainbow, Lily Rose won't be
Flamingos,
interested.
palm leaves, very bright, very bold, on a beach with a glass panelled roof of a marquee at the end. It is spectacular. So do check that out tomorrow.
Nice.
How's our week been, Alan?
We've got a fab. It's bizarre world at the moment, isn't it? So weeks seem to be going very, very slow. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, I don't really know whether it's Friday or Tuesday, but actually it's Wednesday. How is our week? No, fine. Everything's great. We're just working and sharing our wedding stuff. So
Getting ready for our season that's approaching very, very quickly.
For those who don't know, yes, we also have a bell tent glamping company called Bay Lily Bell Tents. So that's due to start imminently.
Getting ready to pour with sweat.
Well, I put a post in our outdoor wedding supply network group today, I think it was today, about has your season started already? And it seems a few outdoor wedding seasons are starting, you know, which is absolutely fab. Well, and why not make the most of it? We funny enough, someone else has said this recently, that stay away from the middle of summer. July, August does not seem to be the best time to have an outdoor
if you are
wedding.
getting married in July and August,
brilliant.
It'll be amazing.
It'll be brilliant. But actually, kind of spring and late summer, September, are the best times to have it. On very loose statistics, we sort of pay attention to the weather for our business. So very loose statistics, sort of April, May, and September have been the best for the past few years.
Yeah. Right, on to business.
Yes,
Adam.
Well, we've got our piece on how to theme an outdoor wedding. When I say our piece, that's definitely more you. We have a question from the Outside Bride group, which says 4 months to go. What should I be doing? It's an awkward time where everything is booked now and there's nothing to do in last minute purchases like kids' clothes, etc. And didn't we have a third thing? Oh, we were going to cover a bit more about
the venue hunt.
Finding venues.
Yeah, we started that last week, so if you haven't seen last week's, do go back and revisit that because it was a very good question about how do you source land or private land or go and find that perfect outdoor venue for your event. So we're going to cover that as well.
Yes.
So starting with question, I think that's
okay.
an easy one to start with. 4 months
So this
ago,
is from Becca O'Neill. She's what's the long time listener, first time caller? No, she's one of our.
She calls all the time.
No, I know. We love Becca. She's one of our regular contributors in the group. So clearly, she's now sitting here going, "Oh, I'm nearly there. What do I need to
However,
do?"
when the 4 months is up and you've had your amazing day, please don't leave us. We do quite like listening to you, and we'd love to hear your experiences after the event as well.
Yes. So should I just read the question again quickly? I have a question. 4 months to go. What should I be doing? It feels like a bit of an awkward time where everything is booked and now there's nothing to do until last minute purchase like kids' clothes, etc. Firstly, you're clearly highly organised, Becca, because I bet there are a million other brides sitting there with 4 months to go still panicking.
Yeah.
You know, so fair play to you for being that organised where the majority of the big things are done. My thoughts are there is probably a plethora.
Oh, well done. It only took you 5 minutes.
Well, it's normally plethora of smaller jobs that you can just start doing, can't you? You know, you'll know from our wedding, won't you?
So, are you looking to give you those small jobs? Okay. So things like, number one, take a breath, take stock, see what you've booked.
Drink some bubbles.
Drink some bubbles. Never had to drink bubbles. Don't drink Hotel chocolate gin if anyone's working in that shop or
no, we love Hotel Chocolat. It's just the chocolate gin.
Stick to your chocolate. That's what you do best. Don't mix it up. It's not good. So things like taking stock of your guest list, looking at who has RSVP'd, who has not RSVP'd. You might already have those numbers already. Working on if you have any seating plans, getting those things done. I would suggest having a chat with your photographer. So if you've got your photographer booked and you're going with a professional rather than somebody going with family friends or someone they know, but if you're going with a booked photographer, talking to them about your vision for your images, what kind of things you're definitely going to want to see on the day, potentially is there a possibility to have an engagement shoot so you can get to know their style on the day, so that there aren't any clashes there. Your making and your crafting, I would say now is the time. But before you go in and make everything, go into whatever room you start storing all of your stuff, because every single bride or groom who's organising their own wedding will have that dedicated spot. You might be in a flat, it might be in the corner behind your sofa, it might be a whole spare room, it might be under your bed,
it might be in the garage,
it might be in the garage, it might be at your mum's house because you're absolutely terrified to show your other half how much stuff you bought on Amazon and they don't know what you've got.
Prime deliveries delivered elsewhere.
Yeah, it happens. Go back to what you've ordered, get it all in one space and look at it objectively and think about, do you need that thing for your wedding? So as an example, for our wedding as well, because there's an easy, we had such a bold, we wanted bright, we wanted fun, we wanted rustic, we wanted this, we wanted that. And as we always say, every single time we talk on Ask an Expert, you have such a wide, vast idea base, because Pinterest is your friend, but it's also your foe, because you just pin.
I want all of that.
I want all of that, and then suddenly think you can put all of that in one, and you can't. So look at what you've got and look at, are you going to use it? If you've got something that you're not sure where you're going to use it, think of it logically. Is there a place for it in your wedding? Have you designed your tables? Are you having sit-down tables? Because not everyone's going to have formal dining and have formal sit-down tables. But maybe do a mock-up of your table. And if a really good example someone put on the Facebook group this week was having lovely rustic wooden rounds with jam jars. How many jam jars do you need? Now, we've covered this before. It's really easy to think I'm only going to need 3, and then put 3 on a really large 6-foot wide round table, and those things can get lost. So really do have an opportunity to do a mock-up. If you may not have a round table, you might not have a trestle table, but you can at least start to see how that's going to form as your centerpieces. So I would say get your vision for your table sorted. I would say really strip back all of the decor that you have in your arsenal and think, am I going to use it on the day? There's nothing wrong with taking
what
extra.
else do I need? Yeah.
What else do you need? Where are your holes? Where have you got things like your guest book? Are you having a guest book signed? Have you got your cards box for wedding cards? Because you might not.
I would say that, because I would imagine, but when you get to the 4-month point and you're thinking everything's sorted, what's actually sorted is you have a tent booked, you have a photographer booked, you have a car booked, you have, you know when you're collecting your wedding dress. What's not sorted is the table plan, the I've gone blank. Yeah, the middle of the table centres, placemats, name cards, favours. You've mentioned kids stuff. Personally, if it doesn't have to wait until the last minute,
do it early.
Just do it. Just get it over and done with.
We've had this with a friend of ours anyway, who's getting married recently, and it's one of those things that you don't want to leave it until. No, you don't want to leave it until the week before to work out what you're going to do and do crafting the week before, because if you do need to start getting extra stuff in, you don't want that added stress of going, where can I purchase it? It's not quite right. I need to swap that out. Do that a few months before and then leave it, and then you can always revisit it closer to the actual wedding day to see if it's still what you want. But then really start thinking about walking through your day as well. So we talk about this on the planning sessions a lot. It's about really structuring your route, your day plan. And you can start that from the moment you start getting suppliers on board to when they're arriving, when they're setting up, how long they're going to need, who's going to be greeting.
Well, I was going to say, email all your suppliers and just clarify detail.
Really hone in on that detail of when they are arriving, because you do not want your tent supplier, your bar company, your flooring if they're going separate to your bar company, to your marquee company, your flowers, all that to arrive all at 9 o'clock on the Thursday or the Friday at the same time, because it's just going to be, number 1, carnage, number 2, not everyone's going to be able to get in because the structure's not up, number 3, there's a lot of vehicles on site. So start thinking about your on the day setup plan now, and getting those timings now and getting that written down. And again, it's one of the templates we use on the planning sessions, and it's the same for the setup day, it's the same for the wedding day. Put on that timeline the time, the action, what's going to happen, who's arriving, the contact number, not just for the company arriving, but for the exact person arriving, because it's all well and good booking, I don't know, a florist, for example, who's going to arrive with flowers. and having their office number to ring, but they won't necessarily be the person arriving on the day to set up. And if they get lost, or you get lost, or something's happened, and you ring their office and they're not there because they're in a van, it's much better to get the person arriving on the day with their number, and then also the person in your party who is going to be responsible for the action. So you're going to have your supplier, you're going to have your crafting activity, or you're going to have your equipment moving, whatever that is. And what you need to do, give yourself a time block, give yourself a time in that schedule, and nominate a person in your wedding party who will be responsible for getting that job done. And yes, that sounds a little bit OCD, especially 4 months away from the actual wedding, but if you get that plan in place now, you can start to see where your holes are at, if you're going to need extra bodies on the day, if you're going to have to need your bridal party to be there on the wedding morning because you've got extra things to put out on the wedding morning. Just working out who's there, how many bodies you've got, how many jobs you've got to do, and that will give you a little bit more. You'll be a bit more relaxed and less stressed about the whole thing if you know that your organisation skills are tip top and perfect. And you can do that. Obviously, you can do that now. It doesn't have to be miles away. It doesn't have to be the week before. Just get that organisation in place. And then other things, really, 4 months ahead.
Relax, enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Make sure
Stag and hen do's.
enjoy a hen do.
Yeah, that would it.
Definitely.
Don't try not to uninvite anyone or anything like that.
Double check your sizings for things. So if you've got things like a generator you're hiring, double check your power quantities and make sure you've got
connections, power connections, things like that.
Almost give yourself a run through in your head the exact.
Have a dress rehearsal wedding.
No. But if you can just in your head from start to finish work out the journey of the wedding and see if there's anything you've forgotten, and just visualize that space and what you want in that space, and things like making sure guest books have pens put in the boxes for you. Start putting things in boxes already, labeling those boxes that you can put away, but you know that that's going to come with you on the wedding day, and just getting yourself in an organised state.
Brilliant.
Right.
Thank you, Emily.
That's my pleasure, Alan.
More from you now, because this is definitely you with me trying to smile while you're talking. Theming an outdoor wedding, darling.
Theming's a really tricky one because that's such a subjective thing.
Yeah, no, it is. It is when we picked it as a topic, but
you're right.
No, I apologise. I've just finished my gin and tonic.
Would you like my horrible gin?
No, I don't want your horrible.
That's the first time I've ever left a gin. What?
Yeah, it is. It is truly subjective, isn't it? So I don't know. Let's talk about it in a kind of general capacity. What about general things that can add value to the theme of an outdoor wedding without like taking over the theme? So we're not going to talk about having red and white pom-poms for argument's sake, but perhaps some wooden stuff, or using local, you know what I mean, natural stuff. Yeah.
So I think first.
Do you think we should have clarified this before coming on?
You chose the topic, love.
Oh, no, I know. Well, I knew it was one you would like to talk about. So
I think whether it's an indoor wedding, outdoor wedding on a boat, it doesn't really matter what kind of wedding you're having.
On a boat, wedding. Yeah, keep going.
Just sometimes think and engage that brain before opening the mouth, mate.
Who sings that? On a rope, got me hanging on a rope. Keep going. Not wedding on a boat. If anyone knows the answer, please type it in. You
may not want to have a theme, and that is totally okay.
Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, I think. Keep going.
You might not want to have a theme, and that is totally okay. You just knocked the camera now, my love.
Oh, sorry.
But having an idea, a thought, just an idea of how you want your wedding to feel is enough to make sure that you can set the tone for your wedding. And even from those little touch points, from your stationery suite to your invitations, if you're doing formal invitations. So look at that. Where's that come from? We're in the middle of the winter. Where are flies coming from? Seriously.
Well, we're well into spring, so and we've just been talking about how glorious the sun is.
The windows and doors are shut.
Windows and doors are shut, that's true. I don't know where that fly's coming from.
Yeah, so all the touch points. So your stationery, when you first send out that invitation, you should have a little bit of a hint about what's to come, so your guests already know. And I appreciate if you've got a very intimate family and friends wedding, they're going to be talking to you in the months beforehand. They're going to know what your ideas are. But some people just want a little bit of steerage. So think about your theme. If you're having a wed fest, for example, you might want brights and bolds. You might want to have your dress code as really relaxed and bold. We had a wedding last year where everyone had to wear a bright maxi dress kind of style. You can't remember the one, it's fine, don't worry.
No.
I'll think of the bride in a minute, it'll come to me. But everyone had to have patterns and brights and sun hats, and there were deck chairs, and that was the thing. There was not a zero. There was zero formality in it at all. Going into your decor for it, you know, you've got ultimately an outdoor space is an amazing backdrop for anything you're doing. So you don't always have to think about completely like fitting out the entire space in decor to make it fit with a theme. You can do things really subtly. So it can be with florals. You could be having, we went to a wedding, we did a wedding last year where the theme was eucalyptus. It wasn't a colour, it wasn't a style, it wasn't nautical, it wasn't colour pop. She just made sure, I say she because she did most of the Lauren did most of the styling, but it was the florals along the edge, it was florals in the bouquet, it was in their hair, it was the print of the eucalyptus was in the stationery suite, so all the menus were printed with the
Nice.
leaves around the side. It was very, very subtle. It wasn't in your face, but you could see that everything tied together. And I think, as we just mentioned in the previous question, it's very easy to get so many ideas to try and splurge them together, and which although that's fine and that's lovely, especially if that kind of represents your personality, it can get lost in translation. So think of maybe one thing, maybe two things you want to tie in together. There's nothing wrong with a bit of fusion. I think a bit of fusion is lovely, isn't it?
I'm a big fan.
But try to keep it simple, and we say this time and time and time and time again, keep it simple. You don't need to go overboard. We had Sylvie. I know Sylvie is an ex-bride of us, and she still watches. I will always remember the Luton van that rolled up with all of the decor that came out, and most of the decor went out, and then about 50% of it went back in the van for the rest.
Well, ours was a bit like that. Yeah. We hired a van, didn't we? That's something that can be done ahead of time, Becca and Neil, if you're hiring anything. We hired a van, loaded it all up, drove down, and it was a nightmare, really, wasn't it? It wasn't. It was lovely.
We had a great old time. I lost my train of thought there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think you can do amazing things with lighting. You can do amazing things with anything that's big and bold. And we've said this again in previous episodes, where if you're trying to theme an outdoor space, bigger and bolder the better, because
True. Less is more, but big is bold.
Yeah,
isn't it?
You've got a lot of space, and especially if you've chosen something like a field, a lovely, beautiful field, a farmer's paddock, whatever. That's a lot of space to cover, and if you've got lots of intricate, I don't know, little hanging details.
Well, even lots of jam jars. If you've got 100 jam jars, A, that's a
well.
faff, and B, it's actually not going to touch the sides.
Although we don't particularly like paper pom-poms, we've never alluded to that we love them. We absolutely...
They're a nightmare to fluff up.
Them.
Fluffing's a nightmare, isn't
Fluffing is a nightmare.
Paper lanterns are more of a move.
But you think about paper lanterns, the size you can get, if you get large scale ones and you get 20 of them together, that's going to have an impact. So wow, maybe you've got a hanging tree, a tree with some branches you can hang from. Maybe you've got a long hedge line where you've got, again, not everyone likes bunting these days because it has been done quite a lot, but I love a bit of bunting.
I'm still up with bunting.
And if you've got a space and you can adorn a side with bright bold colours if that's your theme, or you're going with clear cut, crisp clean lines, or you're going with very muted tones, it doesn't really matter. Just do it in a way that it can be visible, because the last thing you want to do is put a load of effort into making decorations that when you open the sides to a tent, you look out to your beautiful view, you can't see it, or it's a cloudy day and you don't go outside. Think about things that are easily transportable, things that are easy to put together, especially if you're having a group of people doing decor that may not have the same vision as you, so give them a clear instructions.
Well, I think that's a good example, because me and my male friends who would have made up my groom's party clearly aren't creative or aesthetically very good.
No.
So giving us simple stuff with clear direction was genuinely needed.
It really is. And then just try and keep, and I do love a themed wedding, and we've been to a few themed weddings where travel's been an aspect where they've had, and it's not necessarily doing, oh, here's a map, and doing it really like obviously. You can just do really subtle hints to it. So table names that are the names of countries you visited, to vintage suitcases for your card box, or aeroplane sort of motifs and stuff on your stationery, just little tiny things that like to put it all together, but you know when you're in there that it's not necessarily a themed kind of fancy dress party in there, but you can see that there's a connection to things.
Subtle connection.
We've seen 2 weddings in the last couple of years, different ends of the country actually, but they both had a bike theme. One had a bike theme where they cycled from the church to their marquee, and the entire everyone was on a bike, so about 100 people on bikes going from A to B, and then there was hints of that in the garden where they had their wedding. And then another one which was, I think it was Cornwall, and they had bikes suspended from the ceiling.
I don't know, what was the Cornwall one?
It was a beach wedding.
Don't remember. Keep going.
I'll show it to you another day.
Sorry, I said keep going about 30 times. What I actually mean, when I say keep going, what I'm saying is apologies for interrupting you.
But they had, it was concrete, concrete and copper was the colour tones throughout, but they had bikes suspended from the ceiling, they had it in the bar, they had it on the print, and it was all very much a cycling theme. But again, because it was tied in with the copper and the concrete with the textures, you didn't go, oh my god, there's a peloton in here, is this too much?
Well, I think that's really the one I know, the bike wedding. It was as simple as that. They cycled there. There was a couple of bikes outside, you know, with flower pots.
But you always remember it as the cycling
wedding. And there was a bike leaning up against the bar. So really, there were only like 3 bike things, you know, that I remember particularly. But that was enough for us to think of that as a bike themed wedding. So
and really, it doesn't matter what you do and what you want to, and you can do whatever you want. And if you've seen it 100 times before on Pinterest, you know, the rustic theme has been done a lot in the last few years, but it doesn't really matter. If that's what you like and you really love that kind of jam jars and hessian and lace and all of that, it really doesn't matter. You do whatever you want. This is your one day where you get to do what you want.
Totally. And yes, the principle may be similar to someone else's wedding, but it will never be the same as someone else's. It will never be, because we're all so different as people. So if Linda and Dave have had a rustic wedding over there, and give me a couple of names, Mike and Charlotte, I couldn't think of generic names quick enough, are having a rustic wedding over here. Just because they're both rustic, they will be so different. Just because, you know, as you started with this, theming such a subjective, you know, loosely.
Yeah, and it's your personality and it's who you bring to the table, and your family and friends are a completely different group of people to the person down the road. And I think it's just have fun with it. Another really cool wedding that I managed a couple of years ago, I was heavily pregnant, I think with Ben at the time. Their theme was cocktails. So if you're thinking cocktails, I'm thinking there's Sex on the Beach there, and there's a
and Tom Cruise.
Really sort of, yeah, I'm just ignoring you.
Oh, okay.
I don't think of Tom Cruise, and I think I appreciate why you think Tom Cruise, but that's not
am I just showing my age?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I was thinking it'd be quite, not crass, but quite in your face. But what they actually did for their table centres, they did their florals were deconstructed versions of a certain cocktail.
Oh, that's
so
very cool.
Every single table centre had a different cocktail it was made up with. So, for example, there was a mojito table. So the mojito had it was a vase full of limes and mint around it everywhere. It had the bottle of rum to the side of it, which had a very.
Was it available for you to make the cocktail, or was it just deconstructed?
I can't remember. I do believe everyone.
Oh,
had
I really
a
like
cocktail as
that.
part
I
of
really
their,
like that.
But they had, yeah. So there was a bottle of the alcohol that was connected to it. There was some fairy lights. There was so the limes and the mint in that particular, and it was in an arrangement. There were ones that were oranges, and in the jars there were moss creations that had various herbs coming out of it, and all the different smells, and it was really nice. And yes, it was cocktail themed, but you had to really think about it, and it was a talking piece on the table, and everyone was like, wow, and they had to go around and work out what everything was. It was really nice, and wasn't in your face at all. And then everyone got very drunk afterwards, and they had all the Kilner jars of drinks on the side as a cocktail station later on.
Makes sense. Oh, I really like the idea of that one.
Yeah, I could do with a cocktail.
No, don't say that. We're still both trying to be really good, but actually, as I say, it went out the window this week quite a bit, didn't it? You were a bit of a mess.
And we were going about venue, but I think actually
we covered the majority of venues. I think the key part for finding venues is you're probably at some point going to type outdoor wedding venue, insert your area into Google, right? And you're going to get some fab, amazing, stunning outdoor wedding venues. But the opportunity of having something unique, never been used before, never going to be used again, is out there. And all that takes is a little bit of effort, a
Research.
little bit of research, a little bit of creativity. You know, we've told our story 1,000 times. We drove around in a car. We knew where we want to get married. We drove around in a car until we found a field with the view we wanted, and then we worked out who owned it on an OS map. Well, actually, ours was very easy to work out, but most farmers' fields are relatively easy to work out, or you just kind of hang about and someone will turn up in a tractor and say, "What are you doing here?" And you go, "Who owns this field?" You know, but from I'm just trying to think of some random places.
Well, we've said this last week. There are activities.
Oh, I know what I was actually going to say, but sorry.
Activity centres, campsites. You might find that a campsite is happy to hire you an extra field. You know, they have their main campsite. They might have an events field behind that they might give you for the entire weekend.
Yes.
You might find that there's farmers' fields. You might find that there's the Woodland Trust to speak to. I know for a fact, having worked with the Forestry Commission, there are places like Cannock Chase do weddings in the woods. So speaking to organisations like that you might not have thought of, who have land and they're land agents. Yeah, so the Woodland Trust, the Forestry Commission, Wildlife Trust have spaces.
English Heritage,
National
so we
Trust.
were not an outdoor wedding per se, but we were down in Southsea near Portsmouth the other day, and there's lots of like old naval stuff, and you can get married in basically Southsea Castle. You know, there's a marquee there, but tenuously an outdoor wedding. Well, it's a marquee, it's an outdoor wedding. Why am I even questioning it? So yeah, Southsea Castle overlooking the sea. It was really nice, wasn't it? We didn't know it was there. We just happened to be down there with the kids on one Baltic day. But I think that's it. That if you can put a marquee up there, or there's grass, or there's something like that, then the chances are they may say yes. And so all you've got to do is work out who owns it, what you want to do there, who owns it, and then ask them.
And the worst case scenario is they say no and you can't do it. So you move on to the next place. It's good fun. And actually, it's a really nice way of working with your partner to work out what you want and what your vision of your day is, because I think it's easy to say just book that field and then work it out later. But if you start to really think about how you want your feel and day, and we were very keen to have it very relaxed and very informal and just really good fun. And where we were, we didn't disturb anybody. There was no one else on site.
And we wanted to see the sea. That was our big thing. Wanted to see
the sea. That was really important. Our top table was looking at the Isle of Wight across the water, and that's what we wanted. And that was our main top on our list.
Well, that comes back to, let's wrap up with this, I think, because otherwise we're going to be waffling forever. But that comes back to that Sunday night thing. You know, we call it the planning session. That's what the planning sessions on the Outside Bride website are named after, and it's all about sit down on a Sunday night. We say whatever. Sorry, overthinking it. Sit down on Sunday night, get a drink each, get your phones, get your phones, your tablets, your computers, and just have a think about what you want your wedding to feel like. And that's the key bit. What do you want it to feel like? Do you want it to be mad, relaxed? What do you want to see? What do you want to do? How do you want your guests to feel and enjoy it? And I'm not talking about I want them to have a great time. I'm talking about the journey. So I finished there. Apologies for saying the journey. I don't think we should ever finish it anything like that.
If you haven't yet checked out the planning sessions is our dedicated course for outdoor wedding planning. So if you are recently engaged and you're new to the Outside Bride and you've never heard of us before, just to let you know that on our website is a little tab that says the planning sessions. It's available in 6 modules. You can buy it as a whole. You can buy it if you're in between, sort of, you've already started but you need a bit of steerage. We can sell you individual modules. But really, it's an amazing tool to get you to start thinking about your outdoor wedding and where it's going and what you want to do and how to tackle things. Do check it out on the website. We'd love for you to see it. And if you'd like to sign up, all the details there as well. As always, it's never a hard sell, but it's something that is really worthwhile. You're just thinking about if you are looking for some steerage with your outdoor wedding.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Just reminders, YouTubes, please give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, subscribe to our channel. We'd love that. YouTubers, iTuners, podcasters, please give us a little heart on SoundCloud, or subscribe and review and 5 stars on iTunes.
And if you haven't yet joined us on Facebook, we have a dedicated group called The Outside Bride, the ultimate guide to getting I'll start that again.
It's called The Outside Bride.
The Outside Bride, the outdoor wedding blog is what it's called.
Yes,
I was
it is.
getting confused with the planning sessions, excuse me for that. If you join us on The Outside Bride, there is a dedicated group full of people just like you, getting married and looking for advice, inspiration and chat. There are lots of brides and grooms on there, and they'd love to speak to you too. Please do join us. We'd love to see you there. Right.
Thanks. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for watching tonight. Bye.
At this stage, I would usually pick up my drink and start